All right, good evening, everyone. Hope that everyone is having a good day and staying out of this Texas heat that we're experiencing as it starts to warm up gradually as we get closer to summer. It's a true honor to come together in collaboration between Hebrew Free Loan Association of Austin and Shalom Austin Jewish Family Service to provide an introduction to financial assistance here in Jewish Austin. And I also want to thank Marvin Schrager, the board chair of HFLA, for making the recommendation that we come together this evening and ensure that our community knows what resources are available to those in need. Just a quick reminder, we are recording this Zoom webinar, which will give us the ability to rebroadcast it to show to folks who are unable to make this webinar at this time. And that we also encourage you to use the Q&A function in the webinar so that we can answer any questions you might have. And now it's my honor to introduce two outstanding panelists this evening, both of whom I know well. And I'm going to start with Tracy Solomon. Tracy here grew up in Houston, Texas, my hometown as well. And we actually have two Houstonians tonight. And attended the University of Texas of Austin, receiving her BA in marketing in 1985. And following her graduation, she spent a short time back in Houston marketing mutual funds before returning to Austin, where she served as director in the small business division at the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce. For more than 30 years, Tracy has been engaged in leadership and advocacy on behalf of causes that have defined and strengthened the Austin community. Her passion is widespread, inspiring her to help raise millions of dollars for various community organizations. Most importantly, maybe, is Tracy is the co-founder of Hebrew Free Loan Association of Austin, which was launched in 2011. She's also a founding family of the Austin Jewish Academy, which launched in 1997. Tracy has also held many leadership positions in the general community, both at Shalom Austin, St. Stephen's Episcopal School, Young Presidents Organization, or YPO, Beyond Baton's Disease, and the Anti-Defamation League. She's married to Rob Solomon for over 31 years and has two amazing boys, Zach and Max, both of whom live in Dallas, though I understand one of them right now is here in Austin. It's also my pleasure to introduce Emma Howitt, also originally from Houston. Emma earned her bachelor's at Texas State University and her master's in mental health counseling at Yeshiva University. Prior to joining the Shalom Austin Jewish Family Service in 2016, Emma was the therapist at several nonprofit behavioral health and substance abuse agencies serving the Austin area. She stepped in recently as JFS acting director in January of this year and is doing an outstanding job in her role. And in her personal life, Emma enjoys spending time with her husband and gorgeous daughter, reading, baking, and being in nature. So we're going to begin with a number of questions to ask our two wonderful panelists this evening. But first, Tracy, why don't you tell us a little bit about the mission of HFLA and who you serve?
Sure. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you, Daniel, Emma, and Deanna Resnick for setting this up tonight. Shalom Austin has done just an amazing job during this time of bringing the community together, and I just want you to know how grateful I am for that. So getting back to Hebrew Free Loan of Austin, our mission is really to provide financial support to the greater Austin Jewish community through interest-free loans. These loans can empower individuals to become economically self-sufficient and financially stable. The program is based on a recycling model, so as loans are paid back, we're able to reloan those dollars and help others out in the community. And I also want to just make a side note that I think is really important, is that all these loans are all confidential. We keep it all confidential in the community.
Great. And Emma, if you'll share a little bit about Shalom Austin JFS.
The mission of Shalom Austin is to enhance the quality of Jewish life in the greater Austin area and around the world through philanthropy, education, social service, culture, spirituality, and total wellness. Jewish Family Service is the social service branch of Shalom Austin, and JFS serves clients of all backgrounds, both in the Austin Jewish community and the community at large, through a range of our programs designed to address the critical areas of need.
That's great. So Emma, why don't you tell us a little bit about the kind of emergency assistance that JFS offers for Jewish families here in Austin?
Happy to. So JFS offers emergency assistance that is really there to address basic needs such as rent, utilities, and food. Our assistance is geared toward addressing the most critical needs such as avoiding eviction, utility shutoff, and hunger.
Great. And Tracy, also share with us, I know HFLA has evolved to help respond to this crisis. So speak a little bit about the emergency assistance that you're providing during this crisis, and then just generally that you provide on an ongoing basis.
So I would just like to say that hand up. We want to get to the community before they get to an emergency situation. We know that this COVID time is really considered an emergency situation. So what we've done is we've set up loans that we're making available to the community that are $3,000 to help people get through this time in need.
That's great. That's great. And can you share a little bit about, Tracy, what areas of Texas where people can apply, you know, in terms of the areas?
Sure. We serve the greater Austin Jewish community as well as Central Texas. There are other Hebrew free loan programs in Texas that cover Fort Worth, Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston. We have done loans in the past in places like Bastrop, Killeen, Burnett, and San Marcos. So look at us as probably, we're the hole, the donut hole in Texas that we fill that area.
Absolutely. And Emma, share a little bit about our areas that we cover in terms of the geographic area that JFS covers.
We also serve individuals living in the greater Austin area. So that includes Bastrop, Travis, Caldwell, Hayes, and Williamson counties.
That's great. So I think you just spoke to this a little bit, but Emma, if you'll share what amount of financial assistance is available for a household in our community?
So currently the assistance for our financial support, such as avoiding eviction, hunger, and utility shutoff, we've capped that type of assistance right now at $1,000 per household in a calendar year.
Thank you. And Tracy, you just spoke about a $3,000 limit, but do you want to expand a little bit about the opportunities?
So I think in general, in a normal circumstance, HFLA's average typical loan is $5,000. So I think that's the biggest difference between JFS and HFLA is that we are a loan program, whereas I believe JFS is you're actually giving out grants and the money does not need to get paid back. That's correct, right?
That is correct. Yes.
That is correct. And you want to talk a little bit, just to expand, what are the limits on the grants, or excuse me, on the loans for HFLA? Like what's the criteria behind that?
So our limits really depend on the situation and the type of loan that you're applying for. For example, we've gotten quite a few loan applications in the last couple of years for debt pay down on their credit cards. We've had the ability to go up and make a loan to somebody based on their credit card debt, loan them up to $6,000. We do have designated funds that are specific for small business loans. We have a fertility fund also. And these specific loan funds can loan out more than just a typical $5,000. But it will depend on how much is really available currently in that specific fund.
Right, correct. And Emma, do you want to share a little bit about what our criteria, limitations, et cetera, are?
Absolutely. So currently we limit our financial grants to households with at least one Jewish member. We have focused these donated funds to assist community members with paying rent and utility bills.
Right. So I want to talk a little bit, this is more HFLA specific, but the history behind interest-free loans and the Jewish connection. We know that it's seen as tzedakah in our tradition to give a loan, not for personal gain, but rather to help another. And as a matter of fact, one of the greatest scholars and commentators in our tradition, Maimonides, points out in the Mishnah Torah, one of his great works on Jewish law, a person who assists the poor man by providing him with a loan is placing him in a situation where he can dispense with other people's aid. So talk a little bit about what does it exactly mean? What is an interest-free loan, Tracy? I know you know it really well. And I should mention that I actually was on the HFLA board myself, thanks to Tracy. And Mike Rodman many years ago asking me when I first arrived, but share a little bit about the history of the interest-free loan and how it works and why it's so important.
So it's exactly what it sounds like. There is absolutely no interest on our loan, zero. So you pay just whatever amount that we loan out to you. So no interest involved at all. So do you want me to talk about like how it works if you apply?
Yes, please, please.
Okay. So once we receive your loan application, we have the whole process. We have a loan application online. You would go online, fill out the loan application, and once we get the loan application, we assign it to someone on our loan committee, which is a board member. We have a very active working board of 18 volunteers. That person that's assigned to your loan will reach out to you and talk to you about the situation. They'll talk to you about your guarantor and then the necessary information that we may still need from you. The loan committee will review and discuss your loan. And a typical loan could be closed within about 1 week or even sooner. The more information that's provided to us, we are able to the loan process. And that also includes, having a guarantor lined up. So I don't think we addressed that, but all of our loans do require a guarantor. And I think that's one of the questions that's going to come up.
Yeah,
so if you're approved, yeah.
I was going to ask if you want to speak a little bit about the guarantor. Does the guarantor need to be in the state of Texas?
So the guarantor does not need to be in the state of Texas. They do need to be a U.S. citizen, and they do not have to be Jewish. So that's the criteria for the guarantor. So if you're approved, if we approve you for a loan, say today, we can close that loan usually in a few days. And because of COVID, we've been able to bring everything online, and we can do all the documents through DocuSign. We can get the money either wired to you or send you a check directly. We would probably require a face-to-face Zoom call to interview you and talk to you. But once you receive your check and we close the loan, you get a 3-month reprieve before you have to make your first payment. And that after that 3-month period, you will make 24 loan payments over that time period. So the whole process is 27 months. So on a $5,000 loan, your loan payment would be $208.33 over 24 months.
That's great. Thank you for that information. Emma, why don't you share a little bit about how long is the process to obtain a grant through our emergency financial assistance at Shalom Austin JFS?
Happy to. So that assistance comes in the form of a grant, and that is paid directly to the lender. So that might be the landlord, the property manager, or the utility company, for example. And we issue a check and mail it out. Because our staff and many others are still working from home, the time the process takes varies a bit. When communication between all the parties is conducted quickly, we're seeing about a week turnaround to get the check issued this time.
Great, thank you. So why don't y'all, Emma, why don't you give 1 or 2 examples of how community members have typically used the assistance and how it's impacted them?
Yeah, so a recent request came in from someone who had to close their small business due to safety concerns, and we were able to help pay their rent. And this allowed the family to use those funds for other immediate needs during this time, and particularly when there was lost income. Prior to COVID-19, it was common for us to receive requests to pay a utility bill, especially when community members fell on difficult times. A client reached out for this kind of help when she had an unexpected need for major surgery. and the resulting medical bills ate into her regular budget. So we were pleased to pay her utility bills to help offset that unexpected burden.
Right. And also, Emma, if you might want to just speak to, we got some special funding from Glimmer of Hope Foundation to help with some senior needs and emergency needs. Do you want to speak a little bit to that as well?
Absolutely, yes. So the Glimmer Foundation was kind enough to grant us funds to help support the Jewish seniors in our community. And we're providing a variety of supplies, outreach, and as well as well checks and coordinating our volunteers to make sure that our seniors' needs are met.
Right. Tracy, I'd love to hear some stories about how HFLA and the loans you've given out over the last several years have really impacted. I know you have different kinds of stories, and now you have, unfortunately, but fortunately, the funds exist, stories now from the COVID-19 crisis as well. So I'd love to hear some ways that you impact with your assistance.
There has been a wide range of loan applications for every situation is different. Every loan application, I always say that you just never know what's going to come up. And I would say we've done in the last couple of years a lot of debt consolidation, getting people's credit card to pay off credit card bills and consolidate them with no interest. But we've helped people with just general living expenses, medical bills, the fertility loans. We've had 2 Jewish babies born from the fertility loans. We've helped with law school tuition, travel abroad programs. We've helped dental work. Somebody, you need a dental, a root canal, it's $3,000. Home repairs, rent deposits also. If you're starting a new job, you don't get your paycheck until 2 weeks in. So if you're moving here, you need assistance, we can help out that way. Car payments, summer camp. And I think, we've helped out with some B'nai mitzvahs. We've also done funeral loans. People don't realize how expensive a funeral is, and you have to pay for it up front. I think one of the most unique loans that I think we did that stands out to me is we made a loan to somebody just to entertain during the Jewish holidays and have families join them, but groceries are so expensive, so they took out a loan to pay to have people come into their home so they could feed all these people, which I thought was a unique way to use our services.
That's great. That's really great. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
And Tracy, when you first cut the check or deposit the money, does that money need to be made out to the requester? How does that work once the money is approved with HFLA and giving the money?
So HFLA makes the check direct. We'll make it directly out to the applicant. It goes directly to them. And with COVID, like I said before, we have the ability to do everything online. So we can mail the check, or we can do a wire transfer into your account if we need to.
Great. And Emma, do you want to share the same question for the emergency financial assistance?
Yes, so following approval of a request for emergency financial assistance, any funds that are granted are paid directly to the lender. So if we're paying your rent, then we will make the check out to the leasing agency or the landlord. And that is done, it's a check that's issued and sent through the mail.
That's great. And what documents does JFS require in order to be approved?
So all requests for assistance are screened, and we might require some related documentation to determine your eligibility. Some of the documents we might ask for could include copies of current bills, a copy of your current lease, bank statements. And so those are both helpful in determining eligibility as well as executing the assistance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Tracy, what other documents do you require as you're going through the loan process, and has that changed as a result of COVID-19 as well?
Right. So again, going to the application, that would be the first place I would send an applicant, is to look through the application before you fill it out. There's ask for a lot of financial information. They're going to ask for a credit card, how much debt you have, and what you owe and what you have in your bank. So you want to have all that information ready to go. But in addition to the application, once that's submitted, we ask that you provide us with the following items as much as you can, which is the employer pay stub, a W-2, a tax return, a copy of your driver's license, your most recent mortgage or rent payment, a utility bill, and references. Again, these are not all mandatory, but the more information that is provided to us helps us kind of paint a picture of your story, and it allows us to go in and assess the situation to help you out as best we can.
That's great. And Tracy, you already mentioned this, I think, but just to put a fine point on it, has HFLA made any changes in assistance because of the pandemic? I just want to make sure it's clear what those changes are.
Right. And we've designated a nice lump sum of money specific for COVID loans, and we put them at the amount of $3,000. Again, we have flexibility if somebody needs more, depending on the situation. Again, with our applicants, there needs to be a way to show that you can pay back the loan, and also the guarantor secures the loan for us in case something happens and you're unable to make the payments. So we are committed, though, with the COVID loans to turn them around as fast as we can. And that's one thing I think that we're going to work on with the influx of these loans that come in.
Absolutely. Same question for you, Emma. What changes have we made as a result of this?
Well, our emergency financial support is available annually, but due to the increased need during the pandemic, we have capped that dollar amount per household at $1,000. There is a chance with increased funding that this could change in the future, and we'll certainly keep the community aware of our ongoing resources to help during this difficult time.
Absolutely. And I should mention that thanks to the generosity of many people in our community, that we have over doubled the amount of money that is in that pool to support those most vulnerable. And we fully expect it will continue to grow, which also help support organizations like HFLA and others as they're trying to help those the most in need in our community. So that's great. Tracy, is HFLA offering any additional services during this time? Just want to give you a chance to share what those services may be.
Yeah, not at this time, we're not. Again, just trying to get the word out to let the community know that we're available to help out. So I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think just the establishment of those funds, setting aside funds, and just people knowing that it's part of our Jewish tradition to take out interest-free loans, and it's a form of tzedakah, and that people shouldn't feel any guilt for doing something like that that will help get them back up on their feet. It's definitely been a part of our tradition. Emma, do you want to share what other services that JFS is providing during this crisis?
Absolutely. Yes, many of our services are offered on an ongoing basis to any of the community members. And this includes access to non-perishable items from our food pantry and grocery gift cards in some cases. Our clinical staff are offering telehealth counseling services, and we have a sliding fee scale available. We're also coordinating volunteer support to older adults, as I mentioned earlier, whether they're living at home or in facilities. We're checking in with phone calls, we're providing supplies. And in addition to the many virtual programs you can find at Shalom Austin, JFS has an upcoming webinar on June 2nd. Our therapist Lee will be discussing mental health during COVID-19 and building skills for adjusting to the uncertainty of the times.
Absolutely. And so, Emma, here's an interesting question. So let's say I get an emergency grant, emergency assistance from Shalom Austin JFS Emergency Financial Assistance Fund. Can you also apply, Tracy, for an HFLA loan?
So is that for me?
It's for both of you, just vice versa.
Oh. Well, I thought that was a great question. All the information is confidential, so we don't really communicate between our two organizations. We keep it's all private. So we don't know who, I don't know who's looking at us, but what we do, if somebody comes to us and they've already gone to you, but they meet our criteria, we are more than welcome. We're more than happy to help them out. But if we feel like the situation is better suited for JFS, we absolutely are always referring them directly to you guys.
Absolutely. If someone gets a HFLA loan, are they still eligible to get emergency financial assistance?
Yes, absolutely. We understand, especially during this time, that HFLA and JFS might serve different purposes for the same household. And so we certainly, as Tracy shared, we are operating with confidentiality for anyone who's requesting assistance, and we're not sharing information across agencies.
That's great. Why don't we take a moment to share the screen and just show people and walk people through how they can apply for a loan. Tracy will walk us through once Emma's able to get it up on the screen. And then we'll take some questions from the chat area. There's some great questions coming in that we'll get to as well. And feel free to submit more questions.
So if somebody would like to apply for an HFLA loan, they can go to www.hfla.org. And I think Emma's sharing the screen, but you can go to apply now, and it'll bring up our application and the requirements. So that's where you would find the personal loan application, and then the guarantor application and agreement. So all the information is all on the website. You can also send us an email at info@hfla.org, and somebody will reach out to you and we can help walk you through the process if it's too much or too overwhelming.
Sure. Thank you. And Emma, why don't you share, where does someone start if they want to apply for emergency financial assistance? How do they get a hold of you?
So right now, the best way to begin a request is to email us. If you email jfs@shalomaustin.org, that is the best way to start the process. And our team reaches out to you quickly and tries to get things moving, as we know things are going a little slower these days.
So one person in the chat asked, what I think is an important question, what is the biggest source of referrals that you get for each of the organizations? Tracy, why don't you start?
I would say the majority of our referrals really come from the clergy and the community through different Jewish organizations, but mostly the clergy, and through word of mouth, through other people that have taken loans out from us and telling them about the process.
Great. And Emma?
I would say word of mouth tends to be one of our greatest referrals. We often get referrals from synagogues, and many of the rabbis in town know about our services. And so when they are assisting congregants with life challenges, they typically know to point them in our direction.
That's great. And how many loans or grants do you typically give out in a normal, what's called a normal year? And what are you expecting for this year? Emma, why don't you start?
So in a typical year, our budget for grants is around $30,000. We have always limited those typically to once a calendar year per household. We expect that this year we'll have quite a bit more, and that's why we've really focused our fundraising efforts, because we know that the economic impact of the pandemic will certainly have long-term effects on our community members.
Tracy, how many loans do you typically give out in a given year or get requests for, and what are you seeing now? What do you expect as we move forward?
So every year it's been different, and it's been a gradual incline over the last 9 years since we started. And last year was probably our best year. We did over 30 loans. And I would say this year we're on record year ever as far as loan applications. I believe in January, we closed 10 to 12 loans, and I think we're past the 30 loan mark already. And I do want to point out, and we didn't really talk about funding sources for HFLA. We are completely funded by the community. We have had, last year, we've gotten some assistance from Shalom Austin through a grant, and we've gotten some family foundation gifts. But for the most part, we've been running solely on individual donations and gifts from the communities. They have been unbelievable during this time. We have put out an appeal and the community came through for us. So we have money available to loan out and we're ready to help the community.
Absolutely. And can you speak to, Tracy, is there a minimum donation that someone would need to give you if they would like to donate to HFLA? Or we take anything?
Any amount. We would not turn away any gift is a gift to us. And the beauty of it is, and what I love about the organization, and I have said this so many times, is that when you make a gift to HFLA, you know exactly where your dollars are going. They're not getting absorbed into lights or buildings. They're going directly to the community. And when someone pays back that loan, it just gives over again. So the model is pretty simple.
That's right. So a good question came in. We have many people who work in the Jewish community but are not themselves Jewish or come from a Jewish household. So the question is, if an employee who's not Jewish but works for a Jewish agency, can they qualify for a loan from HFLA?
Yes, HFLA has made loans in the past to somebody that is not Jewish but works for a Jewish organization. Most of our loans are typically for someone that identifies or is Jewish. It doesn't mean that you have to belong to a synagogue, but if you were raised Jewish and identify as being Jewish, we will honor that. And we have done some loans in the community for employees that work for Jewish organizations that are not Jewish.
Great, great. And turning back to you, Emma, you were mentioning talking about counseling services, mental health services. Can you share just a little bit more about these services and what people can tap into in terms of JFS resources?
Well, at this time, we're offering some brief telehealth counseling sessions that are free of cost. If you visit the virtual Jewish Family Service website, you can fill out a form request and meet with a therapist to talk about sort of the issues that are coming up most presently for you. We also have therapists to work with clients on a more long-term basis. And again, you can reach out to our main email, jfs@shalomaustin.org. You can also leave a message at our office at 512-250-1043. And we'll certainly get back to you to explore options for counseling and mental health services.
That's great. So we do not currently have any other questions or comments in the chat area. So I'm going to give both of you a chance to share any final words or thoughts you may have that you weren't able to share based on the questions that were asked today. Tracy, you want to go first?
Pressure's on. Again, I think we covered online afterwards. But again, I think HFLA works great with JFS. I feel like we are there to kind of catch people before they fall into the lap of JFS. We want to give people financial independence. We want to help them get back on track before they get into a terrible situation. So again, sometimes things happen in your life, and we want people to know that they can come to us. I call us the friendly bank. We know people don't come to us and don't have great credit, and so we don't want people to feel embarrassed or shamed. This is confidential, and it's a great place for us to step in and really help you out in the community. That's what we're here for. And we want to make sure that we don't have money in the bank. We want that money working in the community. So if you can spread the word and let people know what we're about and encourage them to apply, everybody is eligible.
That's great. Emma?
I'd really just like to emphasize, along Tracy's point that, Shalom Austin JFS really exists to provide a safety net for the Austin Jewish community and to assist people with overcoming challenges, both large and small. And for some people, it's a challenge to ask for help when they've always been the person who gave that help. But that's why we're here, and that's why you gave. So that at the time you might need to ask for that help, it's there for you. And I think it's a valuable thing to know that we have these wonderful services in our community.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you both. I mean, both of you and our organizations do such tremendous work, and we can't thank our stakeholders enough for supporting this work and making it so that we can provide these incredible services that are truly a form of tzedakah, and to help ensure that people can get back up on their feet and they can live a life with dignity. So thank you for that incredible work. Thank you to everyone who's joined us today. I hope that you learned a lot more about the amazing collaboration between the two organizations, about each of the organizations. I hope that you'll continue to support or consider supporting both organizations. And finally, most importantly, that you will spread the word that these services are available. We will be broadcasting this on our websites and on social media so that more people can learn about this, but it's most important that people know that these things are available. There are confidential ways to obtain the resources, and that we're here to help and support the community during what is a very fragile time. So thank you, and Lila Tov to everyone. Thank you again to Tracy and to Emma.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.